Appreciate you taking a few minutes to be here to hear about Customer I/O, but more importantly, the power of data-driven growth and kind of work on this in a little bit of a workshop fashion. When this has been advertised as kind of a workshop, my hope is that we can make it a little bit more interactive. Not just me up here talking at you all. I definitely don't have all the answers. I know a little bit about marketing automation, but I know that each of you are out there doing this each and every day. I always find when it comes to events like this that the real value comes from a lot of the kind of interaction, the networking, the interaction with peers and things like that. So please don't be shy. Please, if you have anything you want to add, if you have anything you want to ask, just raise your hand. We'll also have a few questions throughout the session. Just by way of introduction, I don't know if you actually need my face on there. I'm right here. So I run product marketing at Customer I/O. I've been doing that for about a year. My name is Matt Pahnke. I've been kind of doing the tech stuff for about 20 years now. The first 10 years were more, I kind of look at it as like my old school technology days. I was with Symantec and Veritas doing a lot of data protection, data redundancy, but enterprise software. And then I spent a few years at Netgear doing networking, and so more kind of mid-market hardware. And then I sort of saw the light. About 10 years ago, moved into the SaaS realm. I was at Dropbox for 5 years, and then a little bit with Dialpad and communications, Better Cloud, who does SaaS management, and then most recently Customer I/O. And if there's kind of one sort of through line in all of that, I've always been in the marketing world, using a lot of the tools that we're going to talk about today. But I've also been very close to data, whether it's been storing data, whether it's been protecting data. And at least my view on this, and as we get into the presentation a little bit, Customer I/O's view is that when it comes to engagement, when it comes to marketing, data really is the key that unlocks a lot of the doors. So when they gave us an opportunity to spend a few minutes talking with y'all, being involved in these conferences, we thought it'd be a good opportunity to talk a little bit about how we use data, how some of our customers are using data to make more engaging, more impactful messaging. I had the opportunity to attend the same conference at Promotion Summit in London about a month and a half ago. Talked about some pretty similar things. I really jump at any opportunity that I can to either be in London, be in New York, be in big cities like this. I'm actually based in the San Francisco Bay Area. So when I do travel, I'm a big sports fan. So I thought, I'm going to be in New York. I'm going to go see a baseball game. The Mets are in town. Great, that'll be a cheap ticket. Little did I know they were playing the Yankees. and apparently if I wait 2 more days, I can go see the Houston Astros for $10, or I could get a standing room only ticket for $150 yesterday to watch the Yankees play. So I thought, well, if I can't do that, maybe there's something else in town. The other option was going to watch Lionel Messi for $450 for the cheapest ticket up in the top. So I've been wandering this. Exactly. Yeah. Prices stay high no matter where you are. So again, that's just a little bit about me. I am curious. Any users of Customer I/O in the room? Great. I see a few. I hope maybe you're here to learn a little bit more. Hopefully, many of you have heard of Customer I/O. We are sponsoring the drinks reception tonight. So if you're here, just to say thank you for that. I appreciate it. You're more than welcome. And we get excited to get involved in events like this. In fact, it's been really fun just this past year. We've really kind of increased our presence. We've done some things product development-wise, which we're going to talk about, that has put us in a place where we really like, it's a fun time to start talking face-to-face with customers, partners, about where the market's going. And we've gotten more involved in events and things than we really have been in the past. So. Anyway, for those that are new to the Customer I/O world, we have nearly 8,000 customers, big and small. I'd say those that kind of adopted us early were more the type of companies that were sort of born digital, but we've seen a lot of customers come in that have their roots in brick and mortar or kind of other areas. We basically play in the marketing automation space. We are very much a marketing automation platform. And when I say platform, kind of what that means to us is, sure, we allow you to send messages, and we'll talk about testing messages and the analytics on messages and multi-channel, omni-channel, all that good stuff. About a year ago, we also layered in a customer data platform. And so a CDP goes by the name of data pipelines. And again, as we talk about all this, with data being at the core of everything, we saw that the customers that were getting the most benefit and the most value out of journeys were those that were using a fully featured CDP or data platform. As a result, we were recommending everybody use one, and we thought, hey, if we're going to tell everybody to use one, we really should build one that is built that will work especially well with our product, but also we're aware that people use all different kinds of CDPs, and so we make the connectors and we make the kind of seamless connections no matter what type of CDP you're using. And then a lot of some people are not aware. We acquired a company called Parcel about 1.5 years ago. We're getting a little bit more into kind of the email creation space as well. And when you look at our roadmap in the coming year and beyond, it really is with an eye toward being a one-stop shop for all of your marketing automation needs, from kind of creating the from creating your messages, creating your kind of the visual and the content piece, all the way through to kind of setting up your campaigns and then obviously sending them out and tracking them. So again, that's kind of us. It's probably a little bit too much about us. What I wanted to do real quick, and it looks like it's cut off a little bit. Now look, I'm actually an introvert by nature. I don't love talking to strangers, but as I said before, I know that when it comes to these type of events, like networking can kind of be important. I would like to just pause. I'm going to take maybe 30 seconds, no more than a minute. So if you're going to leave tomorrow, obviously sabbaticals are a thing. I think a lot of times in the tech space, and you had 1 year off. Is there one problem, one kind of issue that you're dealing with, kind of in your job, that you would hope that was completely solved by the time you got back? And if you could just turn maybe to the person next to you, in front of you, and back to you. Again, I'll pause for like 30, 45 seconds. Introduce yourself, say hello, and share what you would like to have fixed, while you're gone. And then I'm probably going to ask a couple people to share if you're feeling particularly generous. So go ahead, turn to the person next to you, and have a quick conversation. All right. So it looks like you made a lot of new friends, which is great. I'm glad to see that. I'm glad that we kind of got the juices flowing there. So just wanted to share a few of the things that kind of we're seeing at Customer I/O. I talk with a lot of analysts. I obviously talk more importantly with a lot of our customers and prospects, and try to understand, what are the problems that they're trying to solve. Along with that, there's a lot of research projects going on. Some of the sources you see here, Forbes, Gartner, and whatnot. But it really feels like we are at a point in time where things are changing in the industry. And some of these kind of top line trends, this whole world of personalization, the idea that you can customize your message and kind of get it to a person the way they want to receive it, at the time that they want to receive it, and it is, with the content that relates to them in a unique way, really is opening up a lot of opportunities, for increased interaction. And that's just going to continue. With the onset of AI and a lot of the kind of new tools coming in, we know more, which means that we can deliver more if we can sort of harness that and keep it together. And that gets into not only is it more relevant, but it can also be more timely. We can deliver up messages based on behavior, based on a whole series of factors, and we see that that's going to become more and more common. Because again, at the end of the day, we're trying to just kind of break through all the clutter. And certainly, the tools that enable this continue to be a priority. Now, we all have, hopefully, some kind of budget, and generally those budgets are being stretched, to the breaking point. In my experience in marketing, always being asked to kind of do more with less. That's sort of the cliche. But with that being said, people are investing in tools, to do these kind of things and do them better. Along those lines, the whole idea of data privacy and like individual privacy, it's never gone away. It's always been important, but I think there's also kind of an increased move toward people beginning to wonder, hey, where does my data actually live? And I think also when you get even outside the U.S., some of the regulations and things that have come into play make some of that even more concerning. And so the value of owned platforms, of owned media, of owned audiences has never been higher, and from everything that we see, that'll continue to be the case. And as was alluded to, just managing that day-to-day data, figuring out kind of who has access to it, who's seeing it, who's kind of manipulating it, but also doing that in a protected environment where you're not putting your prospects or customers at risk. Moving on from the kind of the security realm, the whole idea of kind of omnichannel messaging, and I'm curious, is everybody doing omnichannel of some kind? Hopefully, a little bit of in-app, a little bit of maybe SMS, a little bit of email seems to come back around. We actually run a research or publish a research report. When I say we, Customer I/O, once a year. It's our state of messaging report. We go out and interview hundreds of professionals, different sized businesses, primarily in kind of the mid-market space. There's some SMB, and we get into a little bit of enterprise. And I encourage you to go to our website, download the report. It's free. We might ask for your information, so I don't know if that's really free. But the 44% increase in brands using 2 or more channels, and I think you probably see that in your day-to-day. What's more kind of impactful or to me interesting is the fact that 63% are seeing 63% are seeing better performance as a result, and I think that's just kind of common sense. But the number of the one platform that seems to really be emerging in all of this is mobile, and so whether that's push or whether that's in-app or SMS, we see a huge uptick overall in kind of what's happening there. And then the kind of next one, and this again was talked about, is just the quality of that data, right? I mean, we're all dealing with this idea of multiple data sources and multiple tools and multiple things. How do we keep that data clean so that we can reach out in the most effective ways? And it doesn't really help that the tech stacks that we're dealing with have become more and more complex. Different point tools, doing kind of different best-in-class things, but even though they each work best-in-class on their own, they're not necessarily working best-in-class together. And so, I mean, really what this all kind of nets out at, and I think we see it both as marketing practitioners, but maybe more importantly as customers ourselves, is that we're just inundated with data. I mean, especially in a city, I walk the streets here in New York, and I got billboards that have been spray painted on the ground in many cases, and obviously all the signage that's around and the storefronts. But then you get into, well, what's going on my phone, and constantly getting pinged and constantly getting notified, and just all the email that we sort through. But really, the solution to that kind of goes back to what I said a little bit earlier. How do we kind of personalize those messages? And we're going to get into some of those best practices. But how can we personalize those messages, personalize that experience, so that people respond in a more favorable way and in a more consistent way? And it's not an easy challenge. I mean, there is just so much clutter. There's so much kind of going on out there that we just kind of muddle through and do the best that we can. But if we're going to really make an impact, it's going to be taking what we know about our prospects and applying it. So what I was going to do, we were going to run a kind of a little bit of an exercise, and I was going to take kind of 5 minutes and kind of pass out worksheets and things. With the size of the room and whatnot, I'm not sure that we necessarily need to go that direction, though you may want to hear the smooth jazz. Let me see it. There we go. But we're going to try this again. I want to hear some of your thoughts. Again, rather than write them down and whatnot, want to just have kind of an open discussion on a few different topics. Again, I'm not the expert. I'm an expert on our product. I've done a little bit of research. I spend time in the competitive space. But feel free to kind of respond to each other, or we'll just kind of guide this. But I'd love to kind of hear, when we talk about omnichannel and we talk about all these different, avenues available, anyone here have like a channel that has been performing particularly well the last while? Push. And how long have you been kind of using your push notifications?
For how long?
Yeah. Goes back a ways? Okay. And is there a reason that you see, that you've...
It's really directly reaction of the user.
Yeah.
When I say, come back to the app.
Yeah, it's timely, and yeah, you know right away whether or not it's having any kind of effect. Yeah, appreciate that. Other channels that seem particularly effective right now, or that are particularly powerful for y'all? Yeah, please.
Programmatic.
Okay, and by programmatic?
Programmatic paid channel.
I see.
Lift off and more.
Nice, yeah. And is there something in particular that you like about that, or you just seen that the return on that happens to be the greatest?
The return is significantly better.
And that's great. And it seems to be trending up, down, or did you just get consistent results there?
Yeah, it's been trending up, like as far as return on our spend
Uh-huh.
and downloads and optimizing for subscription as well.
Across the board. That's great. Other people, I see a lot of nodding heads as people are sharing some of these. Other channels that people have been experimenting with or having particular, that have been particularly impactful? Social media? Okay. And that's an I guess kind of the same question. Do you feel like that's becoming more impactful, less impactful, or stayed fairly stable?
Hard to say. I mean, I play on all the channels, and I'm doing it like, on a free site. I'm an indie developer.
Yeah.
And I try to be on all the platforms, and the platforms know you try to advertise and you don't, they want to see money, but sometimes TikTok works, sometimes YouTube works, it's like you don't know what they are.
It's kind of unpredictable, huh? Yeah.
I mean, if you get for free, I don't know, 1,000 eyeballs, that's already good. People might get interested, you get some brand awareness.
Yeah. That's definitely what we've seen with social as well, is that it can be a little harder. I mean, you can get into some hyper-targeting, certainly, but it is a little bit of the Wild West when it comes to exactly, what kind of the impressions you're getting.
Of course, I mean, people don't want to see advertising, they want to see something that's
Content.
interesting or funny.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying right now, is a bit of meme marketing.
Okay.
Having something funny that makes you smile, and then in the end, it's a brand.
Yeah, and then you're off. Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. This is pretty similar to what we talked about at the front. So yeah, lots of channels to choose from. We talked a little bit about kind of the explosion of data. You mentioned kind of keeping the data clean. Any other kind of data adjacent type kind of questions or issues or things that that you've run into, or yeah?
Just with an algorithm, when you see performance changes, just getting better insight into how the algorithm is making those decisions and what inputs in particular are changing at what moments.
Yeah.
And that's always just very big and hard to get to access that information.
Yeah, a lot of times it's easy to see what's happening, but to understand the levers behind it or the changes that you can make, and I guess that's why oftentimes we pay consultants crazy amounts of money to come in and maybe crack that code. But no, absolutely. And that also, when you talk about the algorithms, it goes back to there's so many different tools that we're using, and each one measures things in slightly different ways. And so that is an interesting take to it. Other big data challenges.
Uninstall data.
Sorry?
Uninstall data.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I think with push being such a big channel for growth, there's not a lot of insight into what is the negative response.
Interesting.
Push.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's not an area that we actually get into quite as deep, but yeah, absolutely frustrating on the app side. Yeah.
For these new users that we don't have so much data of them.
Yeah, because you want to offer up an easy experience, maybe a free trial kind of experience, and there's sort of that line that you can't quite cross between how much do we ask for in return, right? Yeah. This is great. These are great examples, and it sounds like we're a lot, within the room, we're dealing with a lot of similar challenges, in some of these things. anything that you've been, any tools you've come across, any best practices, anything that you've been doing that has helped in sort of the integrity of your data or cleaning the data or maintaining a clean set, or is it just all problems? Do we use CDPs primarily as far as ingesting? Yeah. Did you have a comment? No.
So we've been moving everything to GBT, and so it's cleaned everything up and unified it.
Has it? Okay, that's great, and a lot less time spent on sort of figuring out what's what. Other thoughts, tips, tricks? All right, we will get into some of our suggested best practices. And then last, this is a wide open question, but I always kind of like to hear, I think there's sort of a baseline measurement that we all do, cost per click and impressions and, raw numbers. Any particular ways that you measure your success that may be a little bit different or that you've found to really kind of, tell you which way the wind is blowing? Or things that are surprising. I think at times, sometimes we come across some metrics and go, oh, I had no idea that would be so indicative. Any kind of measurement experiences, thoughts? This is the last question, too. It's your last chance to get your voice heard. Yeah. Open, so not just how many people did we send it out to, but how many people got in there, and yeah, absolutely. Any other? All righty. Well, let's talk a little bit about, as we look at some of these different challenges, some of the things that at least we see, and when I say we see, I'm really talking about users of Customer I/O, but the kind of things that they're employing to make things as smooth, as efficient, and frankly, as it returns as much value as possible. And the first, we talked a little bit about this whole opportunity to attack the problem from multi directions or omnichannel messaging. So really making sure that the messages that you send are ready to go across all major marketing channels. So whether that's email or whether that's push, whether it's in-app, some of the things that we've talked about, and the ability to push content that is rich, right? Like was alluded to on the social stuff, whether it's a meme, whether it's a clip, making that experience as rich as possible and as full of kind of engaging content as you possibly can. So everything from every indication we've seen, more channels means a more effective campaign. Should go without saying, but making sure that whatever tools that you're using are either depends on the industry that you're in, but whether it's HIPAA or whether it's SOC. Or GDPR in the UK, making sure that everything is kosher from a legal standpoint, from a compliance standpoint, and that really should be built in at the tool level. It's not something that you want to be spending a lot of time and effort kind of figuring out on a campaign by campaign basis, or even worse, like after the fact when your company gets notified that there's an issue. Measurement is a huge thing. So whatever tools you are using, making sure that the dashboards that are served up that give you kind of the insight into what's happening. One, give you a unified view, but also you can break it down by channel, you can break it down by segment, and so whether it's platform, screen views, event tracking, open rate, whatever, that it is a comprehensive kind of analytical view. And then A/B testing, hopefully we all do A/B testing of one variety or another. Sometimes we are limited by the tools we have. That's one reason at Customer I/O we've really put a lot of time and effort into building out our A/B testing engine. And I'm going to share with you a little bit of a more specific kind of example. So in this particular case, wanted to test whether one kind of call to action button was more effective than kind of three specific ones. So as you can kind of see here in variant A, three sections of content with three different links, or kind of telling one story with one particular link. Open it up. Has anybody run this type of test before? No one? No one's thought to take a look at whether one button or multiple buttons work? Well, what do you think? By show of hands, if we could, who thinks that variant A was the more responsive? All right, so multiple links. And variant B, single link. All right, so we're about split 50-50. Now again, this isn't going to be the answer for every question. Don't go back and tell your boss, oh, I learned that universally one link is better than two. But in this case, that was kind of what we discovered. Sure, there's a lot of variables. It depends on the type of content you're trying to share and the type of action you're trying to drive. But in this case, it was actually an almost 30% lift in clicks by going with the one link than the other. So I think a lot of times when we think in terms of A/B testing, it's like this message or that message, this image or that image. But there's really a whole host of factors, whole host of variables that we can play with when we get into things. And yeah, we really encourage that. So as we kind of draw to a close, I know that I'm standing between you and lunch, so I apologize for that. We'll try to end a couple minutes early so you can be first in line. This is one particular customer of ours, so Zen.com, global fintech company. We talked, their struggle was growing their user base, but maybe more importantly, trying to get them to convert, trying to convert, educate, and also activate mobile users. It's one thing, it's always great, to go out there and say, oh, we got X number of users, but what really matters is kind of the level of activation. And so, in putting this together, and I'm sure you all do this at your companies, you got to kind of figure out what are the gates that we want our customers to move through. What are the thresholds or the actions that we need to take for us to say, no, this is an active, engaged user. And in the case of Zen, there were a few things that they were trying to do, topping up their account, making payments, and whatnot. So this is actually a screenshot, from our product, but using event triggers, segmentation. They enrolled in a campaign after 2 days, offered like a bonus, to get people moving. And so what this really netted out at is motivated users to make their first top up, execute an initial payment, cashback, what have you, all through, sort of the campaign. What they saw was within the first 14 days, number of active users increased by 15% due to kind of the multi-channel strategy. So they were hitting them with email, but also in-app and push. And then within a year, 50% year-over-year increase. So those are dramatic numbers, but they're not that uncommon from what we see when a company moves from kind of a single channel approach to a multi-channel approach. So combined channels, obviously they were able to hyper-personalize the behavior, so kind of look at what they're doing on the app and apply that across, and then make decisions, of course, based on data. So just real quick, and again, for those that are users of Customer.io, this will look very familiar. These are all gifts of stuff in the product, very intuitive, very easy to navigate. It's as simple as dragging and dropping a new channel, whether it's push or SMS across. You always want to be iterating, testing, trying out, kind of new cohorts, new variations. Very easy, to do that within the tool. And then we talked probably enough about A/B testing. But again, really giving some thought to kind of expanding the definition of A/B testing. What are all of the variables that are going into our message? What are all the different ways to make that work? Certainly, the ability to send triggers based on preferences becomes a powerful tool. And then as you get into the content creation side, making things as hyper-personalized as you possibly can. Hopefully going beyond just their name, but actions that they've taken in the app, things that about their prior behavior. And then making sure that you automate as much of this as possible. And one of the cool things that we try to do at Customer.io is we know you work very closely with your dev teams, especially the engineering team, the email developers. But we really want to we've built a tool that allows marketers to work kind of independent of the back-end teams as much as possible. And that can be through setting up templates, that can be through setting up the workflows. And then, of course, easy to identify. You talked about, reactivating, having sort of the data all there at your fingertips to kind of figure out what cohort, you're looking at. How long has it been since we've heard from someone or whatnot? And then, of course, nudging people back into the app, whether it's push, whether it's in-app, what have you. Nice and visual, easy way to, kind of drop your content in and kind of go from there. As we kind of lay out our engagement strategies, when I say we, I'm talking about collectively like the users of Customer.io. I think in a perfect world, this is sort of the cycle that we see customers go through. Whether it's gathering the data, organizing it, creating putting together their content, creating their messages, automating, optimize, assess. It's always interesting when I share this slide. This is very much sort of aspirational. This is like maybe perfect state. And as we talk to customers, they go, hey, that's a little overwhelming. We really do two of these things. We basically create and we send. I think everybody tries to assess. Everybody wants to spend time on assessing. What you want to do, though, is make sure that you have a tool that can do all of these, and that with the right resourcing, with the right time, this is the kind of process that we see works best. And really spending as much time as possible in the organization steps and really the optimize, assess as you possibly can. And I know the nature of driving revenue, the pressure that you get from the sales team, where are the leads, all of that kind of stuff, that forces us into create, send, create, send, create, send. And that's not necessarily the most strategic way to do it. So with that, again, we're customer IO, whether it's marketing automation, whether it's cleaning your data and getting it in through pipelines, a true engagement platform. I thank you all for your for your engagement in the presentation today, and encourage you to continue speaking amongst yourselves and networking the rest of the event. But thanks for being here, and thanks for your time.